This is The Guardian.
Hello, I'm Faye Carruthers and welcome to The Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Hyped up games finish goalless, right? Always the way, but a spectacle at Wembley nonetheless in front of a record crowd as the USA came to town. Handball, chessball, what's the difference? That VAR discussion rears its head again. We'll catch up with the Euro 2025 playoffs and discuss another new broadcast deal. All that, plus we'll take your questions. And that's today's Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Suzy Wrack, how were the Football Supporters Association Awards last night? We were nominated, weren't we? Did we win?
No, we didn't. Always the bridesmaids. To be fair, I think the category of women's football media is a little bit of a strange one because you had a load of podcasts and then the BBC Women's Football Show, so a TV show up against a load of podcasts, and BBC Women's Football Show won. And I just think it was a little bit of a weird category. I get it. I think it makes sense to have some kind of women's award separately because I was nominated for Football Writer of the Year for the 7th year in a row. But
Yay!
when it's a public vote, I'm never going to beat a Jonathan Wilson who won it, or Johnny Liu who is up on the list, or a Daniel Story or someone like that, because their followings are just that much bigger online that it's just impossible for myself or Charlotte Harper, who are on the list as women's football writers, to compete with that in a public vote. So it's a great event, and it's my favourite one because it's voted for by the supporters, but they haven't quite worked out a way to get women's football properly recognised and categories right. But also it's quite long, so you don't want too many awards. So it's complicated, but we didn't win.
You're always a winner in our eyes, Suzy. You are the winner, as is Tom Garry. But are you back from Doncaster, or are you coming to us from a hotel room after watching the England under-23s?
Yeah, I'm back from Doncaster, but I was late home. The various different motorways decided they wanted to close last night, but I did make it back across, and I'm going back across again tonight to Sheffield. Really looking forward to the game, England-Switzerland. The 23s was dramatic, very late penalty save, but thankfully home now, home in the warm, and a new day.
You're bonkers. You should have just stayed there. Doncaster's about half an hour away from Sheffield. Not even that. Madness.
This is true. This is
Madness.
my fault. But someone's got to walk the lovely dog.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. Emma Duffy, I don't know how nervous you're feeling. Big night tonight in the Euro 2025 playoffs. How are you feeling?
Yeah, a little bit nervous, not going to lie, but really looking forward to it. Should be a historic occasion. Obviously fantastic to see Ireland in action at the Aviva in front of 25,000 up to 30,000 fans. Should be a big one. So yeah, the nerves are kicking in, but looking forward to it. And also congrats on the nomination. Fantastic news.
Oh, thank you very much. We were very proud of it, that's for sure. And I don't mind being a bridesmaid. It's fine. They tend to have nicer dresses, to be honest. Right, so let's rewind to Friday night, shall we? A new world record crowd for a friendly, an epic pre-match light show. First against second in the world. The two best coaches in the game going head to head. It was all teed up absolutely perfectly at Wembley, wasn't it, on Friday night, as Serena Wiegman's England welcomed Emma Hayes' USA to town. The last time the Lionesses had played there, we were treated to a 7-goal thriller, but this time it was a much more tightly contested affair, and it finished in a goalless draw. The USA did have more possession, they created more chances, but England put in a really resilient defensive performance. This is what Emma Hayes had to say. I'm disappointed we didn't win, as I felt we were the better team. I thought England's fullbacks defended really well. We lacked a little bit of the killer piece. Was she right to be disappointed, Suzy? What did you make of the game? Did it live up to the hype?
I don't think it lived up to the hype.
They never do they? It's always the way.
Obviously a 0-0 draw wasn't what anyone wanted, but I don't think it was a terrible game either. I thought it was quite an interesting game tactically. I thought defensively both teams were excellent. I thought it was interesting to see Leah Williamson line up at the back with Jess Carter, with Alex Greenwood out wide, and sort of dropping into a back three when they were in possession. Then Lucy Bronze dropping back into a back four when they were like out of possession. I thought that was all interesting, like experimentation and something a bit different. Millie Bright on the bench was interesting. But I thought Naomi Gerber was beyond brilliant for the US. And they were really organised at the back as well. But, with Lauren Hemp missing, with Lauren James missing, Mal Swanson, Trinity Rodman and Sophia Smith for the US, it's going to be massively difficult to, kind of find that creative difference up top, right? Neither sort of kind of carved out any really clear chances. And when you've got the defences playing that well, it's going to be really, really difficult to kind of make something happen without your sort of superstars. So, yeah, I think everyone was a little bit disappointed, but also I think everyone was a little bit relieved as well, because I think there was a real fear that, this could be an unpleasant defeat or something like that for England. And actually it was far more balanced than I think many had expected. Although I do think the USA edged it. I thought they looked the better side, particularly when they're in possession, much cleaner in their passing and control and turning over the ball less easy and things. But yeah, didn't live up to the hype, because the hype was big, and then the pre-match did fireworks and laser light show and things like that, really got you in the mood, and then it was just a little bit flat.
This is what I always fear about all these light shows and pyrotechnics and things like that, because it's I know that they're trying to make it an entertainment product, but for me it's about the football first and foremost.
Oh, I love it.
Well, I know you do. And I wish I wasn't so. I'm not grouchy about it. I don't mind it. I'm just a bit apathetic to it. I'm just a bit like, oh, that's nice. Could you not wait till November the 5th? Or that was last month. Equally. Tom, Suzy mentioned there all the changes in the different defensive lineup. Was it the best defensive performance we've seen from England in a while?
I think it was the best defensive performance that I've seen certainly since the game against Sweden in July, but perhaps even more than that. It was very encouraging that England appeared to have learnt from some of the mistakes against Germany. I suppose my worry is that in order to do so, it took away a lot of the creativity and the attacking endeavour that we would prefer to see from England. So, the wingers, for example, were very deep and sitting in quite a defensive line, and I suppose that helped England stop the USA. And I think the fans would hope that England can find a way to do both. But yeah, it was definitely less error prone. It was much tidier. And I think that with the combinations we saw, I was surprised to see Greenwood at left back and Carter at centre back, but that seemed to work quite well. So it's probably given Sarina Wiegman a lot of food for thought for how they can approach the Euros.
Emma, we mentioned last week that both teams were without key players, so managers had to try different things, obviously, but Jess Naz was handed only her second start. Jess Park also got the nod as well. Been crying out for some of this creative talent that we've got. It almost played into Sarina Wiegman's hands in a way with the injuries, but how worrying was the lack of creativity going forward, do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think it will have been a bit of a concern, but I guess you do have to look at the bigger picture too, like the players that were missing. James Hemp, Ella Toone, 3 big attacking threats, and it's obviously going to cause upheaval and change. You consider the opposition then, the US defence pretty well organised, it's going to be difficult to break down, but I do think the lack of clear-cut chances is a worry for England. I think it was 4 shots on target and their XG was 0.07. Now, I'm not a big XG fan, but it was significant that it was the lowest under Wiegman to date. I thought Russo worked really hard, but the link-up play just wasn't there for a lot of the game. And again, that comes back to kind of building the new relationships. It doesn't just happen overnight. I think it was a tricky night for Jess Naz. It just didn't click. I thought she covered for Lucy Bronze quite well. She had some tough moments, like you mentioned Germa. Suzy mentioned Germa, who I thought was absolutely excellent. She dispossessed Naz early on for a big moment. I think she kind of held her own in the game in all, but just didn't offer that threat or that creative spark, I guess. I think she has potential, but I'm not sure if we'll see her starting regularly. And then in terms of Park, likewise, it was kind of a difficult one for her. I think she's an excellent footballer. She's so technical, creative. She did show flashes of brilliance, but I suppose just the kind of disjointed performance from England at times didn't help. Yeah, I think she's a huge talent and she will play a big role for England going forward. And I noticed that she did the pre-match press conference with with Wiegman yesterday. So I'd imagine she'll start against Switzerland. So another big chance for her.
Feels like an audition a little bit, doesn't it, ahead of the Euros, because it's not just about the players that are going to make it, it's also the players that aren't maybe ready yet, and there's lots of tough decisions ahead. For sure. Lucy Bronze was awarded Player of the Match for England, though, and she was the standout, you have to say, Suzy.
Oh yeah, I thought she was absolutely brilliant. I think it's been really, really interesting to watch her reintegration into English football after playing in Lyon and Barcelona, where, let's face it, the defensive challenge week in, week out isn't, as strong as it maybe could be. And I think we're seeing her at her best. I thought it took a little bit of time at the start of the season to sort of kind of get into the swing of things, but she's looking brilliant for Chelsea and looking brilliant for England. And I actually thought she combined quite well with Jess Naz. We spoke to Jess in the press in the mix zone afterwards about that, and she was like, Lucy said to me before the game, don't worry, I'm going to be the little microphone in your ear, telling you what to do and where to go. Then we asked Serena about that, and she was talking about the significance of Lucy in sort of being a coach on the pitch and, able to sort of dictate things a little bit, and organise the team a little bit, from a little bit further in from the sidelines than Serena and Ariane are able to get. And that, I thought that was really interesting. She's really taking a leadership role in the team from a coaching point of view, not just from a, you are the more senior person, but also then she is matching that with incredible performances. So she's coaching Jess Naz and the team through a game whilst also performing incredibly well herself, which, I thought she was fantastic.
We've talked about all the players missing for the Lionesses, Tom, but USA were in a similar situation, obviously, weren't they? No Mallory Swanson, Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman. So Lynn Williams, Alicia Thompson and Emma Sears came in. What did you make of their performance?
Impressive, actually. I appreciate they didn't score, but I think it showed the depth that the US have. I think that given that England were missing, three forwards, you could say, in Lauren Hemp, Lauren James and Ella Toone, I would say that if you were comparing the two teams' sort of second choice forwards, the Americans are stronger. I think Emma Hayes will take a huge amount of encouragement from the fact that she was able to come to Wembley without triple espresso, as they nickname themselves, and still look like an elite world-class side. They weren't the fireworks, and part of that was because England did well to stifle them. But I think if you're Emma Hayes, you've been in the job 6 months and won Olympic gold, and now you're having a chance to just experiment a little bit more, learn a bit more about the depth of. I mean, she's got such a talent pool available to her. I thought Williams in particular. I think there was almost like I can't think of the right word, which is not great as on a podcast, goodness. But there was almost sort of she took on a leadership role in the way that they were playing. It was almost like not grabbing things by the scruff of the neck, but I think she appreciated the opportunity.
She stepped up.
Yes, thank you. This is why you're.
I knew what you meant.
But stepped up to the mantle and sort of really grabbed the opportunity. And I was impressed with the way that they made it look as though they weren't missing so many key stars. And I suppose for England now, that they need to aspire to get to a stage where, if God forbid England were not to be able to have Russo and Mead, etc., that England could still look as formidable.
This is where it becomes interesting, actually, Emma, doesn't it? Because, both teams are in very different stages in their journey. The USA don't actually have a tournament until the CONCACAF Women's Championship in 2026 and then the World Cup in 2027. But England are 7 months out from the Euros. What would both managers have learned from it? And will perhaps Serena Wiegman be slightly more worried, bearing in mind that their tournament is more imminent?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I was kind of thinking about this after the game, who will have come out of it happier. I don't think Serena Wiegman will be too unhappy, in terms of in the present and not losing. That was huge. Both will have learned a lot against top opposition. Obviously the US have less opportunity for that. England had France and Sweden and of course Ireland in the Euro qualifiers. and both will know that there's a lot of work to do and improvements to be made ahead of their major tournaments. Yes, the timing does come into it for England, like 7 months until the Euros. You won't find that coming. I do think defensively, as Tom said, that Wiegman will be much more pleased than last month against Germany, and even against South Africa at times. It was good to see changes there, like Carter obviously with Williamson, Millie Bright held in reserve, and to still come away with a clean sheet and to get the result and to look compact. Thought as well it was a big night for Mary Earps, who was excellent. I think, was she player of the match or was it Lucy Bronze?
Lucy Bronze.
It was Lucy Bronze in the end, but Earps obviously with some fantastic saves, who's been in competition with Hannah Hampton. So that would be really interesting to see how that kind of battle pans out over the next couple of months. And then for Hayes, I do think it was a good test as she continues to kind of settle into that new role. She obviously would have loved to win, but I think she'll still take an awful lot from it, particularly with younger talent stepping up and, you know, coping well without some key players. And it'll be interesting to see how they fare tonight against the Netherlands and then into the She Believes Cup in February.
Yeah. Oh, God, I'd forgotten about the She Believes Cup in February, of course. Listen, we've got to mention the VAR incident, Suzy. Let's not dwell on it too much because I think it's just obvious for all of us, isn't it? But the referee pointed to the spot for handball against Alex Greenwood. Replays instantly showed it hit her chest, but the referee was still called to the monitor before watching it from various angles before making her decision. I mean, it does show another call for VAR perhaps in the women's game, but also really worrying how long it took to come to the conclusion. And perhaps, you know, just again, standing up for referees, perhaps it's because they're not used to using it that much and so they wanted to go through every single step with it, but it was a bit painful.
Very painful, way too long. I mean, like, it was just so obvious just with the naked eye to see that it had come off the chest, to then have it shown again and again and again and again, and us wait until the decision is made for the referee to go and look at the screen and then come away from that when it is that obvious. I don't think, when it's that clear, I don't even think you need the referee to look at it. You can just say it's obvious, obviously come off her chest, just move on. But teething problems, hopefully those kind of things are ironed out in the long run in both the men's and women's game, because we don't want really, really long stoppages. But that was the only issue. It was the right decision, a good one, but just way, way, way too long.
Yeah. Let's look ahead to Tuesday night. Now, look, we're not going to focus too much on this because it's happening in a few hours' time by the time the pod comes out. So, it'll be out of date. So let's not dwell too much, but it's going to be a very different game, isn't it? England against Switzerland at Bramall Lane. It's the final match of 2024 for the Lionesses. Switzerland come into it off the back of a 6-0 defeat to Germany. They're without their captain Leah Volti as well, who had to have surgery for an abscess. England also without Chloe Kelly, who got concussion on Friday night, and Fran Kirby picked up a calf injury towards the end of the game. How different is the game, and what different challenges, Tom, does it pose?
Yeah, a completely different kind of game. Against a Switzerland team that England will be expected to beat on the one hand, but this is going to be, as we understand it, a really experimental England side, much more so than we usually see under Sarina Wiegman. At this stage, obviously, we don't know the team, but from what I'm hearing, we could see as many as 8, 9, maybe even 10 changes. Wouldn't be surprised if we see debuts for Ruby Mace and Laura Blinkilde-Brown, which would be quite a bold move from Wiegman because they're so young. But I asked her yesterday in the press conference if they're ready to play, and she was adamant, yes, they are ready. They're not just here as training players, they're ready. And I think this could look entirely different to the team that we saw on Saturday with lots of youth. I think we'll see Grace Clinton. I think that we could even see Gabby George get a chance again for first call-up in 2 years, and I think we might see her play. So it's a huge opportunity for so many people, the last friendly before these 6 Nations League games, to stake their claim for places at the Euros. And I'm just fascinated to see how they get on, a team that haven't really played together before, getting the chance to show what they can do against a side ranked 25th in the world, but there's still a decent team there, so it's not going to be an easy game. And they were well beaten by Germany, but they've had some really good results over the last year under Pearson Haga. So I'm fascinated. I'm absolutely fascinated by this match tonight.
This is what friendlies are for. experimentation. See what you've got in a competitive environment for sure. What about Aggie Beaver Jones, Emma? Fans have been calling for her to be given a chance. Do you reckon she will be? And why should she be?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure Tom is better placed than myself or Suzy to give you the update on that one. But I suppose she is an exciting talent. She obviously offers that kind of direct running, the speed, the natural finish. And I think people are intrigued kind of to see her with Russo. I'm not sure it's something we will see this evening, but it is something that hopefully we will see down the line. But as mentioned, like, this is England's last chance to really experiment before the Euros, obviously heading into the Nations League next year. And there's certainly opportunity for it. So yeah, really excited to see the starting 11. I'm not sure I'll see it in the moment tonight, but it's something that I will definitely reflect on yesterday and watch or tomorrow and watch back. But yeah, should be an exciting contest and lots of opportunity.
Just be really honest. You don't care. It's okay
There's
to
one
say
game
that.
in town tonight, guys.
Don't worry, we're going to focus on Ireland very shortly. Just be honest on this pod, always. Listen, more broadly, Suzy, just to kind of wrap this up, how do we wrap up and sum up England's 2024? Mary Earps, I think, summed it up in many ways, and certainly from her point of view, I can agree with her on this, saying it had been a difficult year. How do you assess it overall?
It's not been the smoothest of years, but it's not been the worst either, right? Like, when you look at sort of the run of things, over the whole of 2024, they've lost 2 games, France and Germany, and then drawn a few, USA, Sweden again. Yeah, so like, we're not talking sort of crisis levels of dip here. And, qualified for the Euros comfortably in the end, kind of experimenting now. So, like, anything in the context of the years they've had in recent years of the Euros high, World Cup final, is going to feel like a dip in comparison. But, like, it's, like, I don't think it's alarm bells time yet. I think there's still kind of plenty of time for them to sort of find their feet and find that sort of creative attacking edge before the summer. Whether they can do that in competitive football in the Nations League is going to be interesting. I think this year is just a bit of a meh year, but like next year, 2025, with the Nations League and then the Euros sort of back to back, is going to be where it matters and where we can really assess sort of how they've developed from the World Cup and the Euros. Like, I think this year is a bit of a write-off.
A write-off. Hopefully that first part of the pod wasn't meh. Fingers crossed, because that's it for part 1. I don't want to leave on a meh point. In part 2, though, we're going to look ahead to the conclusion of the Euro 2025 playoffs as the final 7 spots at next summer's Euros are decided. Welcome back to part 2 of the Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Let's start with one of the playoffs that's caught the eye as soon as the draw was made. Wales hosted the Republic of Ireland in front of their own record crowd at Cardiff City Stadium on Friday night, and it finished Wales 1, Republic of Ireland 1. An unfortunate own goal from Welsh goalkeeper Olivia Clark cancelling out Lily Woodham's opener. I mean, I think it's fair to say it was cagey, Emma. Both managers admitted that their sides weren't at their best either. Did you feel a little bit as if neither side really wanted to lose the first leg, so actually advantage Republic of Ireland in many ways, having the second leg at the Aviva Stadium?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Like, especially as the game wore on, it was pretty clear that neither side wanted to lose. Particularly Ireland, I think they'll be happy enough to come back to the Aviva with that home advantage, and they'll hope to get the job done. It was cagey, it was scrappy, the chances were few and far between, it was as expected. It was physical and fiery as well, and there were plenty of flashpoints. I know Katie McCabe spoke about some cheap shots in their press conference yesterday. I'm not sure exactly what she was alluding to, but I'd imagine there'll be more fireworks tonight with everything that's at stake. But yeah, it's going to be very different tonight. I think someone does kind of have to take the initiative. It could be a long night. There's a possibility of extra time and penalties, but just really, really excited for it. Not sure what to expect, but there is history on the line for both sides, both looking to reach their first European Championships. 25,000 tickets sold, could go north to 30,000 tonight, and that should make it really interesting.
Yeah, most definitely. Wales manager Rhiannon Wilkinson said while her team had moments, they never really had momentum, and they really struggled to play their brand of football and played into Ireland's hands, Susie. What do they need to improve on? We've talked about this on the pod before. How much of their reliance on Jess Fishlock is becoming a bit of an issue?
I mean, it's a good question. Like, I think in the long term it's an issue, but I don't think in the immediate term it necessarily is. In the long term, obviously she's, getting on. She's not going to be around forever, and she's the talisman of that team that everything goes through, and is so critical to. I mean, she was, critical in the goal for one, like putting in the cross that was not cleared properly, that Wooden put in. So, like, I think it'd be wrong to say that, there's an over reliance on her, but like they need to be future planning, and they've not really got a superstar level quality player of her level like in the background ready to kind of step into that role, and that's a bit of the problem. Like, I think the reason why most people think that this is the Republic of Ireland's tighter win is because they've got sort of a number of top quality players in there, and Wales haven't quite got that to the same extent, bar Fishlock. It's difficult to play your brand of football when you're playing a team that is ultimately, just quality wise across the board, player for player, a better team. So like that is a hard ask, and I think that involves a lot of teamwork and collaboration. And when you've got a player that is a standout superstar like that, who you're trying to send everything through, that could be a problem, because you identify that player, you shut them out, and then you kind of are a little bit more in control of the game. If they spread that load a bit better, then that's going to make things a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, it's a really difficult ask to go to the Aviva and like make something happen in that game for Wales. Like, I think, if they do, there'll be a lot of heart in any win that they get or result they get there. So I think it's exciting in a way that they've got nothing to lose, really, because I think the ball is in Ireland's court, so that'll be really, really interesting. But yeah, Jess Fishlock, every time you think, is she reaching the end, you think she then pulls off an incredible performance or, sets a goal up, and you're like, well, no, keep going, don't stop. So yeah, over-reliance in the long term, not in the short.
Yeah, agreed. But the problem is the onus is on Ireland, it feels, Tom, but they weren't at their best either. Equally, to go to Cardiff and rescue a draw gives them confidence, but they'll be more buoyed by the fact they're on home turf tonight.
Yeah, Ireland have been building up quite a strong record, or at least looking like they're getting more and more used to playing at the Aviva, and I think that gives them a big advantage. My gut feeling is they're probably heavier favourites than people have been hinting over the last few days. Now they're at home with the tie level. I think Wales will be kicking themselves that they didn't win their home leg. I appreciate the Wales fans aren't going to like hearing this, but I think Ireland are a stronger team. I think they've got stronger players. I think they've got an excellent goalkeeper in Courtney Brosnan, and I think they've got players like Anna Patton, for example, who are just a slightly higher level. You've got like O'Sullivan, such a classy footballer. Kiernan developing so well. And my gut feeling is that in Dublin, with a reported 25,000 people, I think this will be Ireland's night. That will be a shame for Wales because they've been getting so close to tournaments. So, and hey, who knows? I'll probably have egg on my face. Wales fans sending me this tomorrow saying we won. But my gut feeling is that Ireland are stronger. If Ireland perform to the way they can perform, I think they win the game.
Yes. Okay. But I can see Emma cringing. I know that producer Sophie is at the airport, ready to be flying out to Dublin with her wife, who is Irish, who is also cringing, listening to this pod. Sorry, Rachel, and sorry, Emma. I really hope we've not jinxed you, especially. But the issue is that the predictions on this pod are terrible. So, yeah.
Don't tell me that.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. 25,000 tickets have been sold for the second leg at the Aviva Stadium tonight. And to be honest, whatever happens, history is going to be made. Neither side have ever qualified for the Euros, so that's exciting. And this is what Eileen Gleeson had to say about it. I don't feel the pressure is on our shoulders. I feel like it's in our soul. This is our home. We love playing in the Aviva. We love the crowd. It's magical. You walk out and they sing. There's nothing like being at home in Ireland. For us, we're coming home. We're trying to inspire the nation and do the nation proud. That's nothing but a boost. We're a passionate country and we have a lot of pride in this team. Oh, I'd let Eileen Gleeson walk me out at at any event ever. I'd feel, my shoulders would be back and my chest would be out and I'd be delighted. I love those words. Does it give you the tingle? I mean, I'm not Irish, Emma. How much does that give you the tingles? And are you feeling confident? Please don't make us make you feel nervous. That's really awful.
Yeah, quietly confident. But I'm not going to lie, the nerves have ramped up a little bit over the last half hour or so. But yeah, those words from Gleeson the other night, spoken in her press conference after the game. I was actually in the mix zone, so I missed them, but they were relayed to me pretty quickly. And I think the one that stood out was just Dublin being in their soul, the Aviva Stadium being in their soul. It's going to be a huge, huge occasion, regardless of what happens. Massive crowd expected, a lot of noise, a huge moment for Irish women's football, and there have been plenty of those over the last few years. Lots of history made, obviously, reaching a first major tournament in the World Cup, that playoff at Hampden Park. They'll be hoping to repeat the feat tonight on home soil, and what an achievement it would be to do so on their home patch, as Katie McCabe has said, and they'll feel confident that they can do so and that they can get the job done. But yeah, it's a huge night for the team, for the nation, for Irish fans all over the world. And there's the weight of history there, but they seem to be kind of embracing the pressure and enjoying it. And regardless of what happens, they've left a major legacy already, but I do think they can really cement their place in history tonight by reaching back-to-back major tournaments, because it's not something that's been done too often by Irish teams.
Absolutely. I wish you the very, very best of luck, and I hope we can get you on in the next couple of weeks and talk to you about your Euros preparations. Sorry, Wales fans. We need a Wales journo here to even this up, don't we? And not be biased. Let's focus on Scotland. Pedro Martinez Losa's side were held to a goalless draw by Finland in their first leg at Easter Road. It was another cagey affair, actually, Suzy, which you kind of expect, and this is the problem with these two-legged playoffs. I understand why you have to have it like that, but they'll have been frustrated not to take the advantage on home turf.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's a big blow that they didn't after recent performances. I mean, it was a real step backwards. Very cagey. Kind of let Finland dominate the ball by dropping just way too deep. Looked quite nervous. I thought the bench looked pretty weak as well, like really midfield heavy, not a huge number of options in terms of like game changers up front. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do. You'd like to think the quality is there, particularly in that midfield, but like for some reason it's just not clicking the way you'd want it to, with Erin Cuthbert, Caroline Weir and the Scottish Sam Kerr. You think that there is enough between them to like really start to dominate games and control the narrative for Scotland, but there's something not quite right about that connection there, and that's sort of what needs to change, because if that comes together, they could dictate games against some of the best teams in the world, let alone, kind of against Finland, and the teams sort of around them in sort of, kind of like Nations League level kind of matchups. So yeah, I'd say it's disappointing, but we know that they can turn around a result. So, it's not the end of the world per se.
It's not, but there's something not quite clicking right at the moment with Scotland, Tom, it feels. They've got incredible talent. Martha Thomas, Caroline Weir, Kirsty Hansen, Erin Cuthbert, but the performances don't really seem to be reflecting the talent on paper that they have.
Yeah, and I think the results recently, because of the opposition they were playing in that kind of second tier of the Nations League, maybe it means they flattered to deceive a little bit, because it's 9 games unbeaten, which sounds good. 7 of those being victories, including 7 wins in a row. But it just feels for me as though that papered over a few cracks that maybe start to emerge when you play someone stronger. I think this is an enormous night for Pedro Losa. I think not just to deliver for these Scottish players and this generation of talent they've got, and for the fans and the whole of Scottish women's football that needs this result. Pedro Losa, I think, needs to win the game. I think if they don't, he's got a contract to the end of 2027's cycle, but you could certainly see Scotland looking to make a change if they don't get through this tie. It's a huge, pivotal night in the journey of this team, his time as a manager, and of for the Scottish women's game as a whole. So I think we saw when they were in Division 1 or League, I forget whether it's A or 1 or whatever we're going to call the top tier of the Nations League. When I think we saw then that they had still so much more to develop. And I suppose maybe Scotland are one of the victims of this new format, where they're on that sort of precipice of being like almost strong enough to really challenge the sides in the top tier, but playing too well to beat quite comfortably some of the teams in the second tier, and they've ended up kind of yo-yoing between the two. And I think maybe for them to kick on, you probably want more games against teams that are like Finland. You almost want more of these games, and they either seem to be being beaten or winning over these sort of seasons, if we can call them that. And I suppose that while the format might work perfectly for England and Spain and Germany, it might work really, really well for Latvia and Azerbaijan. Sorry, not Azerbaijan, but I'm just trying to think of a team in the League C. That's me getting kicked off the pod for not knowing my teams. But anyway, let's circling back to what I was trying to say, is that I think for a team like Scotland who end up yo-yoing and maybe don't get the chance to play teams that are going to bring the most development out of them, I wonder if they're a victim of this format.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Anyway, they travel to Helsinki for the second leg, which is on Tuesday night. Good luck to them as well, and also to Northern Ireland. It was a tough night at home to Norway in their first leg. It finished Northern Ireland 0, Norway 4. It was a brace from Caroline Graham Hansen, goals from Tuva Hansen and Guru Bergsvand as well. I mean, look, it was always going to be a tall order, wasn't it, Emma, for Northern Ireland, and Norway just, it feels, have too much quality.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's no pressure on them now. I know Tanya Axterby took pride in the fact that Northern Ireland didn't crumble, given they're 3-0 down after 26 minutes, like a lot of teams could have folded there and then. But I think, there's no pressure on them. It's more so bigger picture stuff now, looking to the World Cup qualifiers and the Nations League obviously next year. I think they'll be looking to repeat the second half performance from Friday. They posed a little bit more of a threat, and they obviously restricted Norway to just 1 goal, and they'll be hoping to repeat that and even improve, I guess. It's kind of a weird one, no one wants to be playing for pride, or no one wants talk of damage limitation, but I do think there's a lot that Northern Ireland can learn from this experience. And then just to mention as well, actually, you mentioned Caroline Graham Hansen there. I just read that herself and Ada Hegerberg are both on 49 goals, so the race for the half century is on. That could be one to keep an eye on tonight.
Yeah, oh my goodness me. Oh dear. Good luck, Northern Ireland. Tom, you did an interview with the Norway manager Gemma Granger last week. What were the key things that you took away from your conversation? Are they going to be a real threat if they make it through to the Euros next year?
I think they could be, Faye. Yeah, I think they could be. They've been sort of perennial underachievers in many ways in major tournaments in recent years, certainly over the last decade. But the potential there is absolutely enormous if you think of the stars like Guro Reiten, Frida Mornum, Lisa Nelson, Ada Hegerberg. We could just keep going on and on and on. It's a top draw squad. They look like they are making a lot of improvements. They're not the finished article yet, but she does seem to so far be getting a tune out of these players. I think from what we hear within the camp that her methods have been quite well liked so far. They're taking to her ideas. There's quite a good morale in there, which hasn't always been the case with Norway major tournaments campaigns. And I think clearly looks like they're going to qualify, doesn't it? So barring some miracle, and I don't think teams will want to draw them in the draw when the draw comes around. I think they will be a dangerous team lurking in a lower pot, I think.
Yes, I think you're exactly right. That means England are probably going to get them. Although that worked out well last time, didn't it? So it was fine.
England are going to be the team. No, England in pot 2 is, we often wonder about who are England trying to avoid, and who everyone will want to avoid England from pot 2 compared to the other teams in pot 2. England have scored 7 goals against some of the other teams that are going to be in pot 2 recently. And, that they are, I think if you're Spain or France or Germany or Switzerland, you're thinking, please not England in pot 2.
Well, have we got 2 weeks until the draw, haven't we? 2 weeks?
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself talking about the draw.
I know. We will talk about it before Christmas for sure. Let's run through some of the other first leg playoff results and some of the teams who are hoping to be in that draw. Poland beat Austria by 1-0 thanks to an own goal from Marina Georgieva. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. Terrible. Belgium earned a 2-0 win away to Ukraine. Portugal and Czech Republic locked in a 1-1 draw, and Sweden beat Serbia by 2-0. Any surprises for you this evening, Suzy, do you think?
I mean, there's definitely the potential for surprises. Whether we'll see any is a tall order. I mean, we don't often see many surprises in women. But we don't often see many surprises in women's football, do we? We just don't. It's really rare. I mean, obviously Poland having the 1-0 lead over Austria, that would be a little bit of a shock, but you would again expect Austria to turn it around. Northern Ireland obviously have got an impossible task. If Wales beat Ireland, that would be a shock, I think. But beyond that, I think everything is going to go the way that you would expect. So, I mean, even those ones that you would say are slightly more on a knife edge, the Poland-Austria one, the Wales-Ireland one, really, you probably could have, kind of picked which team is going to qualify from every game ahead of them playing the first leg even, and got there. But it'll be interesting to see if anyone pulls anything else out of the bag. On that thought, can I just get a rant off my chest about the format here with these players? in the men's playoffs, UEFA do them as one-legged, proper, exciting, one night, winner takes all drama. And I think for many, many reasons, we should do the same in the women's game, because not merely for the fact that these playoffs have been going on for so long, 4 games. My heating wasn't even on when we started these playoffs. It feels like the leaves were still green on all the trees. I just feel like, and the teams who aren't involved have played 4 friendlies, whereas and we talk about the calendar and how little time there is to fit everything in. You can win yourself back a whole camp if you can congest this into one camp like they do in the men's format. So ran over, but that is my preach to the football's authorities to sort of tighten this up.
Preach, Tom Garry. And more actually from you, because I feel like we've rounded up quite nicely all of the international break there, and obviously we'll be back with you next week to let you know who got on where and whether it was as straightforward as we predicted. But there was some big news and some breaking news actually this morning, Tom. You revealed earlier on, or was it towards the back end of last week, that next season every Barclays Championship game is going to be available to watch live on YouTube. So each match will be filmed by a minimum of 2 cameras. That's really key, because so many incidents get missed when it's just one camera. And we have touched on it before, but firstly, how important is it for the continued growth of the league? And secondly, fill us in on some more breaking news that you've got.
Yeah, we have breaking news that went live on the Guardian website while we were recording this podcast, which is that we understand, according to our sources, that it's been proposed that the name of the Women's Championship will be changed back to Women's Super League 2 from next summer. So we can exclusively reveal that now on the pod. And it's still in the early stages. As nothing's kind of legally signed off yet or ratified or finalised. But from what I'm told, this has got support from the majority of the shareholders. There was the first shareholders meeting of the new entity that runs the leagues now back in October, and it's been kept quite quiet since then. But that is our understanding, that is the proposal, Women's Super League 2, which is what the second tier used to be called from 2014 to 2018, when it was a summer calendar when it initially came in, and then it's changed to Women's Championship ahead of the 2018-19 season. An interesting little difference, though. Back in those days, it was Women's Super League 1 and the Women's Super League 2. But my understanding is that if this goes ahead, the Women's Super League would not add the 1. It would just stay as just Women's Super League and then Women's Super League 2. We also understand that the proposal is for the company that was called NUCO and is now WPLL. I believe that they propose that will be called Women's Super League Limited. So if you then put those two things together, you've got a real emphasis potentially on the brand of WSL and Women's Super League. And I think, I'm sure people have various different views on this, but the impression I get is the reason they're kind of proposing this is they want to really emphasize that particular brand and build on the strength of that WSL brand, make things very much from a global perspective if this is the WSL. So that's the news we can bring. And yes, as you mentioned yesterday, we broke some big news about what is currently called the Championship, which we believe is proposed to be called WSL2 from next season, which is that all the games will be live on YouTube. Sky will still have the right to pick non-exclusively a game if they wish to do so in the Championship, but regardless, all the games in the division will be streamed on the division's YouTube channel, which is a significant difference from the current kind of one a week that we're getting at the moment.
So from WPLL to WSLL, my acronym head is exploding. How can you go from but the WSL is run by the WSLL, and then they look after the WSLL SL2. I can't cope.
It's line of duty, isn't it? We just need the OCG and the.
That's brilliant. Listen, I absolutely know why they're doing it, and I'm on board with why they're doing it and why they would want the same thread running through it. I get that, but Suzy, you are itching. You are itching to make your point.
Yeah, I don't like it. I can see the logic of it. Like, I can see the reason behind it in that, like, you know, everything Tom said to explain it makes a certain degree of sense. I'm not totally convinced that there's a need to build the league as a brand per se. I think the emphasis should be on clubs. People don't really support leagues. The WSL is enough of a brand on its own already, but I don't like something being called 2, like something being the weaker version of. That doesn't sit right with me, and I like the sort of relationship that it has towards the Premier League and the Championship. Like, I think that's a good differentiation. I'm just not a fan of something being a 2. I just really don't like that.
Do you know my only concern with it? Because obviously Premier League 2 is the under-23s, so it almost makes it feel as if the Championship is the academy version or the youth version. I also think it sounds a little bit like, you know, when somebody buys a house and they splits it into 2, like, and you live at 26A. Don't live at 26, I live at 26A.
I can see one other good thing about it as well. Like, if they want to merge the leagues, then it becomes a much easier thing.
Yes.
Like, if they want to expand to, you know, like a 2022 team league or whatever, then you can do that. But I just don't like it.
Yeah, I can see the benefits of it. I think I'm on the fence with it. I don't think I have an opinion either way about it. Emma?
I'm the same. I'm not sure. I'm just a bit like a name. I know I obviously get the points that Tom has laid out about aligning the brands. I also accept Suzy's thoughts about the 2. We've actually had it here in Ireland with the domestic league, where it was called the Women's National League for years, and then they rebranded to the Women's Premier Division, and some people call it the Women's League of Ireland. So it has 4 or 5 different names, and it all gets very confusing. But yeah, it will be it's a change, but it's one that I'm certainly on the fence with too, Faye.
Yeah, we shall see. I'm sure we will discuss it some more. Listen, couple of quick final points for you elsewhere. One to keep an eye on concerning the Arsenal managerial role. It was announced last week Nick Cushing will be leaving his role as manager of New York City. We'll keep an eye on that. Zambian international Barbara Banda was named BBC Women's Footballer of the Year last week. The Orlando Pride striker capped off a phenomenal year with the win via a public vote after her performances caught the eye, with Pride taking the NWSL Shield and Championship. And we send all our best wishes to England and Crystal Palace's Brooke Aspin, who suffered an ACL injury on duty with the under-23s against Norway on Thursday as well. Finally, Suzy, I just want to talk sticker books. The WSL Panini book came out last week. I got very, very excited. I saw your post on Blue Sky. Your son James has stolen it already.
Yeah, that's fine. The issue is the wonky stickers and the like folded ones, and the laziness of the attention to detail is killing me. But other than that, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, no.
It's really fine. They don't warn you about this parenting. Whoa.
It's important. They have to be placed in perfectly. I can't bear that. You need like one of those things like when you put something over your iPhone, you know, like a tempered glass, and you get given like a roller to make you need to go over every single sticker with a roller.
I do. I really do.
I mean, I love a good sticker book. I absolutely love it. And the fact that this has come out, I'm very, very excited about. Right, listen, Suzy, I know you've got to run off. See you later.
Bye.
Bye, Tom.
Oh yeah, I just was saying bye to Suzy. I can say if you need me. Yeah, Suze, take care, mate. See ya.
Yeah, bye, Tom. You're so funny. Emma, I really desperately hope we've not jinxed you tonight. Very best of luck.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I don't know if I'm feeling better or worse after this, but we'll see how things are come 10 o'clock or so tonight.
Fingers crossed for you. Keep having your say by sending in your questions via X or emailing us at women'sfootballweekly@theguardian.com. I've got a load of questions, by the way, that we will go through next week. I'm so sorry we haven't had time to do it today. As ever, as well, a reminder to sign up for our bi-weekly women's football newsletter. All you need to do is search Moving the Goalposts Sign Up. The Guardian Women's Football Weekly is produced by Sophie Downey and Silas Gray. Music composition was by Laura Iredale. Our executive producer is Sal Ahmed.
This is The Guardian.